get started. I expect Councilmember Rodriguez to be coming on board real soon, because I did speak with her just a few minutes ago. So good evening, everyone. It's now about 6:01 p.m. on November 17, 2020. As you know, today we had a very welcome rainfall in our city. Let's hope for some more. Let me call this meeting to order with a bare minimum quorum of 3. This is Mayor Rich Landsberg, and I'd like to make clear for the record of this meeting, and it should be reflected in our minutes of this meeting, that this regular city council meeting of November 17, 2020, it will be conducted pursuant to Governor Newsom's Executive Order N-29-20. This meeting will be held via teleconference, and council members will participate via teleconference. Their locations are not listed on the agenda and are not accessible to members of the public. The public is encouraged, however, to listen to the city council meeting live on Woodland TV channel 20, and also by going to the City of Woodland's website at www.cityofwoodland.org/meetings. A member of the public wishes to make a comment during the general public comment period or on specific agenda item, there are 2 ways to do that. First, members of the public were encouraged to call 530-661-5900 and leave a message at that number. Any voicemail messages received by 6 o'clock tonight will be played during the city council meeting and read into the record at the appropriate time. Any member of the public watching live, the live stream, who wishes to make a comment on an item as it is being heard may submit an email to the city clerk at councilmeetings@cityofwoodland.org prior to the public comment period on that item. Emailed comments submitted to be read aloud and into the record shall be no more than 3 minutes long. Please include the agenda item on your subject line. I'm now going to move to item B, roll call. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Thank you. Councilmember Barajas?
Here.
Councilmember Fernandez? Still not here. Mayor Landsberg?
Present.
Councilmember Rodriguez?
Present.
Oh, there we go.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Stallard?
Present.
Thank you. I would now like to request that each member of the council respond to these 2 questions. They will be, can you hear me well? And do you have a copy of the agenda? Councilmember Barajas?
Yes and yes.
Thank you. Mayor Landsberg?
Yes and yes.
Councilmember Rodriguez?
Yes and yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Stallard?
Yes and yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Madam Clerk, have you posted our agenda tonight at a location reasonably accessible to the members of the public?
Yes, I have.
Thank you. The record should reflect that we do have a quorum of 4 council members present for this teleconference, have indicated they're able to hear the proceedings. At this time, I'm going to request that other city officials introduce themselves and their positions so that the record can reflect their attendance at tonight's meeting, starting with our city manager, Ken Hyatt.
Yes, good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Ken Hyatt, city manager, is present.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Ethan Walsh, city attorney, also present.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. Ana Gonzalez, City Clerk.
Also present and attending this evening, representing city staff, are Derek Caff, our police chief, Eric Zane, the fire chief, Christine Engel, community services director, Craig Locke, public works director, Brent Meyer, acting community development director, Kim McKinney, the finance officer, Scott Sowen, our IT manager, as well as Erica Bumgarner, our business development liaison.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. Now, as we go through tonight's agenda, I would request that before you speak, please identify yourself each time you wish to speak. For example, this is Councilmember Barajas, etc. Please let the individuals speak and please do not interrupt them. I would also ask to the greatest extent possible that you should mute your phones or your devices so that we do not get unnecessary background noise. I would also like to advise council members and the city clerk that any votes taken tonight during the teleconference portion of our meeting must be taken by roll call. I would ask that Madam Clerk take that roll call for any and all votes. Now we'll begin the rest of our agenda, starting with the Pledge of Allegiance. And I'm going to have Council Member Barajas lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance tonight.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States
of America
and to
and to the republic for which it stands,
one
nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilmember Barajas. That takes us to item D, public comment. Madam Clerk, since the council chambers are closed to members of the public, has there been any messages from the public who has submitted an email or left a voicemail for the general public comment portion of our meeting?
No, Mayor Landsberg, I do have one for item 9 and one for 13, but nothing for the general comment.
Thank you. Are there any hands raised at the present time for a general public comment?
No.
Thank you. That takes us to item E, council and staff statements. We're going to start with Councilman Fernandez. We'll now go to Councilmember Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just real quick, I participated in my last YOLO Habitat Conservancy meeting yesterday, in which the phasing of what the next year calendar is going to look like was picked up and approved, as well as membership of one of our committees. Finally, I want to thank the Yolo County District Attorney and his staff. I participated in a youth development forum where I shared my experience of being on the council and my career path. And we had Derek Chief Calf on there as well, Judge Sonia Cortez, and of course the district attorney. And it was a nice time to share our ideas and perspectives to our young members of the community. And that will be it for me, other than looking forward to hearing about the developments of COVID. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Rodriguez. Councilman Barajas.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Landsberg. I just been in touch with a lot of different county officials and a board of supervisor regarding the COVID situation in Yolo County in general. As you know, that we moved into purple tier, and just reminding residents and community members from all over Yolo County, Woodland, to be able to wear their masks. Also be able to support our businesses by curbside pickup and eating outside if possible, and just being able to make sure that we're safe during the holidays, especially Thanksgiving and Christmas that's coming up. Also been able to meet in my transitional role coming up as a board of supervisor, just being able to see what county programs are out there to help the homelessness issue and the flood issue, and a whole array of collaboration issues between the county and the city. And I look forward to working in the future with my council colleagues to enhance the services and opportunities for all Yolo County residents, but also in particular the Woodland City Council residents, the Woodland residents. And that will conclude my report for right now.
Thank you, Councilman Barajas. We look forward to working with you as well. Mayor Pro Tem Tom Steller, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, colleagues. I'm pleased to announce that I was appointed to the Housing and Community Development Committee of the League of California Cities yesterday, and I'm looking forward to serving there and learning about how we can provide more housing options for the people of California, as well as protect our economy. Most of the meetings I've gone to have been fairly routine, Valley Clean Energy, however, has entered into 2 long-term contracts for renewable energy, along with all the other CCAs in California. This is really increasing the market for renewable energy and helping to reduce carbon emissions. We also were able to, as you may have read in the paper, pay off our debt to SMUD of $1.5 million quite a bit early. So we're not completely debt-free. We have a line of credit, but we're close to being debt-free. We have a couple tough years fiscally coming up because of issues with the California Public Utilities Commission, but by and large, we're doing very well. Councilman Barajas and I have been representing us there for some time now. The last thing I'd like to mention is that in a short time, we'll have a new council. And as we look forward to that time coming, I just wanted to share with my colleagues my belief that it would be in the interest of the stability and continuity of our city that we renominate Mayor Landsberg for a second year. I feel with 3 new council members coming on, a lot of change is going to be happening. I think we've benefited from Rich's calm and thoughtful leadership, and that will be my recommendation. But the reason I'm announcing it tonight is I thought people ought to think about the idea. If they have questions or concerns or want to hear more of my thinking, I'd be more than happy to share it. But it's not agendized, so it's not a topic for discussion tonight. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Stallard. My comments will be brief tonight, and it's a serious comment. I'm very disappointed that we have moved to purple this week, which requires us to roll back much of the progress we have made in our community in the last several weeks. This is most unfortunate for a variety of reasons. I feel terrible for our small businesses, which will continue to suffer and maybe suffer even greater. Somebody mentioned eating outdoors. I did that today. It was not fun. It was cold, it was rainy, it was not fun. Rolling back this to purple will not be good for our restaurants and our other small businesses. I feel terrible for our residents who may have contracted this horrible virus. I feel for our city, the suffering we're going to endure because we're back in purple and rolling back progress that we have made. We're better than this. We can do better than this. I just don't think it's too much to ask to protect yourself, protect your family members, protect your community by wearing a doggone mask. It's not too much.
Why does she have that kind of beard? It's like the right, all right.
It's not like we're asking too much of our citizens to do this. This is humbling and it's painful to have to go backwards. Next week is Thanksgiving. I hope that all of you consider that it should be a limitation of who you have in your household, especially if you haven't been around them for very much in the last few months. I hope you consider that people are still getting sick, not only in our community, but in our county and in our state. And of course, the nation is in a terrible mess with this damn disease. I hope you consider that you need to do what we all need to do, protect our community, our businesses, our family, and especially yourself. Think about yourself, think about your community. And that's all I have tonight. Thank you, Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think I'll focus my remarks as well on the COVID situation and our transition back to first tier, purple tier, effective yesterday. So certainly as the council knows, and hopefully the community is aware by now, partially given the increase in case rates as well as the case test positivity rates, which are the 2 key metrics that the state has established to determine which tiers counties are allowed to progress into. Yolo County, much like almost every county now here in California, has seen a significant increase in those metrics over the course of the last 2-3 weeks. Yolo County is not immune to it. So we will anticipate and hope for positive metrics moving forward. However, we'll say the environment working against us is both the flu season that's upon us as well as the gathering season. And those two reasons are giving CDPH at the state level great concern. Positive news here in Yolo County is that at least the hospitalization rates are not at alarming levels. They are increasing. However, the intubation rates are stable, and we're not seeing significant impacts amongst the ICUs here in Yolo County. So, I don't know if we can say enough, right, to encourage each and every one of us to be persistent and diligent about sanitizing, wearing masks and distancing, and particularly being mindful as we look towards the holiday seasons to continue to be thoughtful about others, as well as be diligent in our interactions. We will continue, of course, to watch very closely with the county how we're trending. We did see a slight decline yesterday, and there may be hope that the spike we saw over the last few weeks was a result of the Halloween timeframe. But again, we're heading into Thanksgiving and the holidays. So we'll look at that very closely, but our business community, as you know, has suffered not just a financial setback, but I think an emotional setback. Many of them, right, are just holding on under this new operating parameter, and now they're having to cycle backwards. Mostly impacted, right, are the restaurants that are now forced to no longer provide service indoors during the winter months, which is devastating for many of them. We do have an item later this evening for consideration, which will provide some relief financially for those that are impacted, but certainly not enough to, to make the issue palatable for many of them. So we will obviously support our business communities in every way that we can here as a staff, and continue to respond when we get citizen complaints about businesses that are not complying with these new regulations. So we're heading into a challenging period. And then also internally, as it relates to our own operations and case rates internal. So we've been very fortunate over the last several months to have very few, if any, positive cases amongst staff. We have seen some recent potential exposures that are causing concern. So we are also being very mindful as to what potential impacts could occur, particularly in our public safety and our utility operations should we see a potential outbreak. So very important for us internally here as a city to be very mindful. So we will keep the council posted and community posted if any of these situations evolve and change. And please feel free to reach out if you have any questions as we move forward. I will now turn to the long-range calendar. The next scheduled council meeting would be just after the Thanksgiving break on December 1st. And as we've discussed, we had tentatively set that to be a light agenda in anticipation of the election results being certified in sufficient time to post that agenda and have a council reorganization meeting and seat the new council members and say goodbye to the outgoing members. In conversation with Jesse Salinas today, it appears that it's very unlikely that the election results will be certified in time for us to post that agenda and plan for that meeting on the 1st as a council reorg meeting. So for the council's consideration, I'd like to suggest that we hold the December 1st as a regular meeting and then look at a special meeting the week of December 7th, possibly Tuesday, December 8th as an option. So I'd like to see if the council is receptive to that idea. Keep that meeting just solely focused on a council reorg with no or maybe one or two, if necessary, consent items. So the December 1st then turns to a fairly light agenda, and we had pushed a few items off to the 15th, and those may be able to be now moved up to the 1st to make that agenda a little bit more meaningful as a result. So we may move up the apprenticeship workforce development program item, as well as the homeless shelter final agreements. We're anticipating having those brought forward. So a few changes ahead as things evolve here, but I would like to hear from council if they'd be willing to consider a special meeting the week of the December 7th for council reorganization.
Thank you, Mr. Hyatt. let me chime in first, and I'll invite other members of the council to do so. I think it's a great idea to have a meeting on the 1st with a regular agenda, and if necessary, a special meeting the following Tuesday to greet our new incoming members, as well as say goodbye to our outgoing members. So I'm in favor of that thought. Other members, please chime in.
Yes, Mayor Landsberg, Councilmember Rodriguez, I support the recommendation, and also want to thank the city manager for, hopefully we get to push that apprenticeship item up. It keeps getting pushed back, but I do support the recommendation for the new dates. Thank you.
Yeah, same here. Mayor Landsberg, the week of December 7th would be great if we can be able to have a special council meeting. That's it. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, Mr. Hyatt, I think you have some direction there. You're muted, Mr. Hyatt.
My apologies. Yes, I will proceed with working with the clerk to schedule a special meeting on December 8th, Tuesday in the evening, and inform the council members elect that would be the date to plan for being sworn into office.
Great, thank you so much. Anything else from the long range?
That's all for long range for now.
Thank you. Takes us to the consent calendar, item F. I know that some of you want to make some comments about the things, but right now I want to pull item F2 to discuss the Small Business Saturday. But before I get into that, if there's another item that you wish to pull, hold that thought for a minute until we get done with item F2. F2 is a Small Business Week. As you know, we have been working very hard this year to help out our small businesses to succeed in this very difficult year. In conjunction with Small Business Saturday, the downtown businesses are also promoting their Shop Small Holiday Crawl, November 27th to 29. With that, I believe all council members should support this declaration. We also have a special guest tonight. We have Rosemary Leonardi from Haven Boutique, who wishes to say a few words about this project. Welcome, Rosemary, if you're there.
Thank you. Can you see me or hear me? I'm not sure.
Can you hear you?
Okay, great. Thank you for having me on. And yes, it's been, today I actually posted on our social media that it's been 8 months today that we had to close in March. And, we've had to completely shift how we do everything. And in talking to other business owners similarly, right? Our poor restaurants and other retailers are really struggling. And so, I think what we've decided to do is really connect with all of the businesses, at least in the core area, and help support each other for now. But it's great to have the opportunity to be with you guys and share anything else you'd like to know in terms of what we're doing today.
Thank you. Are you going to be part of the Shop Small Holiday Crawl?
We are, yes. And, gosh, in talking to a lot of the other stores, it's I think a bit different. I mean, a lot different actually, in that people are tentative, right? They're scared about being in crowds and being in the store with so many people when we're now required to only be at 25% capacity. So I think what a lot of stores are doing is just offering appointments, doing before and after shopping, and really trying to generate as much revenue as possible without, infringing on current laws and different things. But yes, I would say most everyone is excited and involved, and we're just really trying to be as positive and have fun with it as much as we can.
Well, thank you, Rosemary. Be assured that you and the rest of your group have our assurances that we're going to do what we can to help you out.
Thank you. Ken's team has been amazing. I've been in close contact and communication with them in terms of what is being planned, how we can easily navigate through this, because it's literally changing every day, right? So they've been fantastic in helping us with what we need.
Good. Thank you very, very much.
Uh-huh.
Thanks, Rosemary. All right. Before I open it up to other members of the council, I do have a question for Chief Zane on his quarterly report. Chief Zane, are you present?
Good evening. Yes, I am, Mayor.
Thank you. The question I have for you, and you don't have to answer it tonight, Chief, because I know it takes some work, but in reviewing the response times for the fire department, I'd like to see a breakdown, particularly for Station 3, for a specific reason. As you know, the question is whether or not to build the new firehouse out there. So at some point in the near future, if you could update the council on response times just for Station 3 and how that compares to the other stations.
Yes, absolutely. We'll work on a report, and I'll work with the city manager to make sure you receive all that information.
Thank you. Before I let you go, your mustache looks like your dad's when he was in high school.
I'm not sure if I take that as a compliment, but thank you.
Now I have a question for Chief Caff. If Chief Caff, can you pop up?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'm here.
Thank you, Chief. The question I have for you on your quarterly report is the number of transient 290 registrants. It looks like we have 28 transient 290 registrants, and the number of transient registrants seems to be somewhat consistent and steady. The question I have on those 28 individuals, are these people who are from our community, who have cases from our community, or are they clearly transitory and their cases are from other jurisdictions? That's what I want to know. You don't have to do it tonight, but at some point, I think that's important for council to know.
Absolutely. We'll get that information and get it through the city manager back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. That's all I have on the consent calendar tonight. Is there another member of the council that wishes to discuss, confer, or pull an item from the agenda?
Mr. Mayor, this is Councilmember Rodriguez. I would like to pull item 11 on the softball fields at the sports park and would like to get council presentation for the public.
All right, you have the floor.
Yeah, good evening, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to have Christine Engel, Community Services Director, provide some background on the lease agreement and give you some detail on a proposed license with the Woodland Fast Pitch Softball League here that we've been working with over the course of the last year and a half, as well as Woodland Rec Foundation. So excited to be able to present opportunity to the council to consider this license agreement that would ultimately produce 2 additional softball fields for girls fast pitch with an additional field pending future fundraising efforts. So Christine, if you wouldn't mind walking the council through the item in some detail, and look forward to council feedback and questions.
Absolutely. Good evening, Mayor and council members. I'm Christine Engel. I'm the Community Services Director. I'm going to just provide a short history on this project, but I can go back and provide any additional detail that you might have. Essentially, we have gotten to this point from proposing to have softball fields or fast pitch fields constructed after working on this effort for approximately 3 years. It started with the formation of a subcommittee with 2 Parks and Rec commissioners and 2 city council members that met over the course of a summer with the different user groups for youth recreation to find out what their current facility needs were and their future facility needs. From that, projects were identified as being either level A or level B projects, and the construction of new fast pitch fields was identified as a high priority level A project, and that the level A and level B projects, as well as some seed money and a sports park conceptual plan, were approved by the City Council in March of 2018. In some of my notes are cut off here with my screen, but in September of 2018, the City Council approved fundraising agreements with the Woodland Tennis Club and with Swords Boards for the construction of a tennis complex and a skate park at the facility. The total cost of constructing the sports park master plan, the new projects that were proposed, was about $16 million. So it was thought that the groups that were proposing the efforts would really have to come up with the money themselves to construct and to operate the facilities, with the exception of the fast pitch fields, which we thought the city would have some level of involvement. Since that time, the city has set aside $1.5 million to help with facilities on the property that would be shared, such as sidewalks and lighting and landscape. So then back in October of 2018, Girls Fast Pitch came forward to the City Council and asked to split the costs of constructing their project, which was an approximate $5 million project. So they were requesting $2.5 million in funding from the City Council. At the time, the City Council was not willing to entertain allocating that type of resource to the fast pitch fields. And so the City Council directed staff to continue to work with Fast Pitch, as well as Woodland Recreation Foundation was involved early at that time too, on ways to minimize the expenses, or just how we could come up with a plan to move the project forward. So the Woodland Recreation Foundation and Girls Fast Pitch have working diligently since that time to come up with a plan to reduce the cost by using volunteers and getting donations. In April of 2019, the City Council did approve allocating funds for Girls Fast Pitch to offset their expenses for the use of their fields at Douglas Middle School, and then also at Harris Park. Harris Park, we don't charge them since that's a city facility, but at Douglas Middle School, they're paying for the use of the facilities and for utilities, as well as having portable toilets brought in. And then in February 2020, the City Council approved the naming of the Fast Pitch Complex to the Dowling Fast Pitch Complex because of the sizable donation that the Woodland Recreation Foundation received. This just is a schematic showing the fast pitch field. The city manager pointed out what is being proposed in this phase is the construction of 2 fields with dugouts, a gravel parking lot, and improvements to access off of East Street to what is currently a 24A. Sorry, flipping back and forth over here, 24C. And so future phases of the project would include the addition of bleachers, lighting, a restroom and concession stand, as well as landscaping. In terms of funding for construction, the Woodland Recreation Foundation and Woodland Girls Fast Pitch Association, they're responsible for soliciting the donations, for lining up professionals that would be volunteers to help with irrigation and earthwork and whatnot. And the expense during the construction for the city would be minimal. It's basically like the staff time that I've been involved, or that we've had meetings out with Fast Pitch and meetings with the Woodland Recreation Foundation. Woodland Recreation Foundation would be solely responsible for all of the construction costs. For operations, again, Woodland Recreation Foundation would be responsible for all the expenses related to the operation of the facility, for maintenance, for lights, for water. Since this time, the city's probably spent about $30,000 getting to this point for paying for some design work, but that was actually for the design work for the overall sports park master plan. It wasn't specific to just the fast pitch fields. So we haven't spent any money doing the design work that you see in front of you. As the city manager identified, what we're asking the council to authorize tonight is for the city manager to execute a license agreement, and that would be with the Woodland Recreation Foundation. The license agreement identifies that the Woodland Recreation is solely responsible for all the costs related to construction, that the city must approve the plans and specifications prior to any construction, that the work needs to be done by licensed professionals, that the city, once we determine that the fields are complete, that the fields would then actually become property of the city, and we would enter into a use agreement, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. One thing that needs to be done prior to the city authorizing or executing the license agreement is that we currently do have a lease with a farmer that farms a portion of the property at the sports park, but a portion of that is the land that would be used to construct the fast pitch field. So we need to modify that agreement prior to authorizing or executing this new agreement. The use agreement identifies the priority of use for the fields, that fast pitch would have priority use, then the city, and then others, that the Rec Foundation would be responsible for scheduling the use of the fields and for collecting fees. And one of the reasons why the Rec Foundation would be responsible for actually collecting the fees is they're the ones that are responsible for paying for the use and the maintenance of the facility. I do want to point out that I don't anticipate that the fields are not going to be used to the fullest extent possible. Currently, Fast Pitch is using 2 different fields in 2 different locations, so it makes it challenging for them to hold their games and their practices. But the fields also will be used for tournaments, and then they'll rent them out as needed as well. And if the fields were to sit idle, it's not in the best interest of the Rec Foundation, because they do have costs that they're going to have to pay for that most likely are not going to be, they're not going to bring in enough revenue to cover 100% of the cost. So they're going to want to bring in as much revenue as they can. And then also they'll be continuing to do additional fundraising. The city will be ensuring and overseeing the schedule with the Rec Foundation. The agreement identifies that we'll have regular meetings with them, and that we will also provide input and kind of approve the fees that they set for the use of the fields. The Rec Foundation would set aside $500 annually that would go into a fund for the city for future capital replacement funds. Fields could only be used from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. daily. Alcohol would be prohibited, and the initial term would be for 20 years, but then they would be able to extend that for 3 additional successive 10-year terms. Just a few other points. The Rec Foundation right now, they have about 7 members, or they will have about 7 members. They include 1 member of the Parks and Recreation Commission, who has extensive long-term experience in the community with youth recreation, including Girls Fast Pitch, Little League, and Cal Ripken, and she has an accounting background. The other member that will be now joining the commission is actually the past chair of the Parks Recreation Commission, John Paul Belkaringi. Skip Davies is on the foundation, as well as Jim Hilliard and a few other members. Some things that they've been doing in the recent past is working with a tax advisor in the community to make sure that the records are being maintained accurately. They're also looking on how to invest the current funds that they have, because they have received a sizable donation, and their account has really grown because the efforts that they've been focusing on about the last 2 years has really been for fundraising and designing the Girls Fast Pitch project. You should have received letters of support for this project from the Woodland Recreation Foundation, from the Woodland Soccer Club, and from the Fast Pitch Association as well. And Skip Davies is also available to answer any questions if you have them, as well as myself. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine, for that very concise and great summary. I'm going to turn it over to Councilmember Rodriguez. I think you have some questions.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I first want to highlight the efforts that have taken place to push this initiative forward to obtain proper field conditions for the girls. And I want to thank the Fast Pitch Association for working with us. It's been quite some time since I know I have connected with some of the coaches on that end. My main concern here, and I first and foremost want to say that I support our girls fast pitch teams, and I want to make sure that we at some point deliver the fields that they deserve. We had what I would say a failed attempt at looking into building permanent restrooms at the Douglas Fields for the girls. I know one of the parents expressed that the girls want to have a place to play and to be able to get their games to have their games. And so there's a lot of back and forth over the last several years to include questions of underutilized fields where the girls once played at Clenard Field. And so what I realized over time was that both the efforts of installing permanent restrooms at Douglas Field and having Clenard Fields be shared with some teams created issues mainly within the parents and the sports teams, the hesitancy to share space. So with that said, the sports park is a public park, is also a park that is paid with fees that the Spring Lake community pay. And so I do have issues with the lease in that from looking at it and reading at it, it appears that we are attempting to privatize this space, which is public space. We did come together in a facilities committee, and back in 2017, when we wrapped up the concept of the layout, I asked for a forum for the Spring Lake community. And I got pushback back then. We completed the project, 2018 comes around. And so when the girls fast pitch came back, and I think this was through former council member Skip Davies, and the 2.5 million ask, what we were asking is for more time to, of course, deliver this money, because under no circumstance should any sport out there pay for facilities, especially public facilities, and facilities that we have paid money into. And so, of course, we ran into what was the gender equity argument, which I felt was unfair. Because I saw all these other issues transpire and sharing and looking at alternatives while we do build these fields, because at the end of the day, this phase 2 is going to happen, is going to take place. It's just taken us time because of the money, of the budget restrictions. And so what I wanted to get into next is that, how do we, and this is a question for staff, the last time that we brought up this item, I know that I asked specifically for a forum for the Spring Lake community so they can look at this concept just like they do with the full specific plan, which I know we had a forum on the full plan some months back before COVID hit us. But that hasn't happened. And so I want to know from staff why it is they feel it's not important to engage the Spring Lake community, because to some extent we are accountable to them and we should be having a forum, even though if it's, comes in the form of a webinar these days. And that's my first question.
All right, I'll go ahead and respond to that first question. And I think it's important to clarify, right, the proposed improvements as well as the maintenance of the girls' fast pitch fields as presented would not require any funding coming from Spring Lake, either from the developer park impact fees or Spring Lake CFD payments. So unlike the other fields that are currently constructed out at the sports park, these fields would have no financial relationship to Spring Lake residents and the taxes they pay. And that was really one benefit that we pointed out of this approach was by taking this direction towards the improvement and ultimately partnering with a local youth sports group to actually maintain the fields. Not only is it cheaper, but it also does reduce the burden of the Spring Lake residents for the maintenance. But at the same time, they would have equal access if their daughters are participants within the program, and during off hours when the fields are not being used by girls fast pitch would be available for appropriate use of those fields. To the question of, engaging the Spring Lake residents around future master planning of the sports park, absolutely, agree that we should connect them. And our intention and plan was to do that at the end of this year, early next year, as we were getting close to nearing payoff of the current parkland in Spring Lake proper. If you recall, we actually worked with the developers in Spring Lake to finance the acquisition of the remaining parkland in Spring Lake so that we could front load the construction, at least of a portion of each of the remaining parks in Spring Lake. We have now paid off those purchase obligations and are accumulating funds that we will have sufficiently established to begin to look at improvements for the parks that are not completed in Spring Lake. And so our intention was to reach out to the Spring Lake community about the time that we had sufficient funds to ask them to help us prioritize which next phase of improvements they would like to see in Spring Lake, affirm the master plans for the parks that we have already established in the Spring Lake neighborhoods. And then as part of that, bring in this conversation, not only about the sports park, future phasing and build out, but also the community pool, the second pool that the council has prioritized and now secured property in the Spring Lake neighborhood to construct. And so there's a lot to engage with the Spring Lake residents around park and park improvement facilities. And we wanted to make sure we had all those pieces together and ready to have a comprehensive conversation with them.
And Mr. Manager, see what's happening here is that we attempt to go to the Spring Lake community after the fact. And, there has been complaints in the past about this where folks maybe missed a form or missed an item and, they get it after the fact. And in this case, we haven't even provided them an opportunity like we have with the fire station and with the pool. And so that's one piece. And I think I've been very adamant about this, and I've been very passionate about getting this to the Spring Lake community. So I don't know why the resistance, where this is at. But when I first saw this, and I've seen it on the agenda, I know this was a request that I had when it last came back to me. So my initial inclination is for us to bring this back under the new leadership, because I would also like to assist, outside of this formal capacity, because I feel like we're not there yet. Mind you, I feel terrible because I feel like the girls always get stuck in the middle here. And it's been 3 years since we've been discussing this, and it's unfair. So that's where I stand, and I'll go back to this. If my colleagues want to pursue this, I see other legal issues with Elise, but I do want to come back before I step away from this and ask to the Woodland Rec Foundation. I heard what the current membership looks like. The commitment was back prior to 2019 was that there was going to be representatives from each sport that would be included as part of this foundation. And unless I'm missing something, I don't quite see that in here yet. So if we're going to be doing business with the Recreation Foundation, I want to make sure that we're focused on equity across the board.
Yes, I'm sorry. This is Christine Engel again. I did fail to mention that at the Recreation Foundation meeting today, the president of the foundation, Jim Hilliard, mentioned that he's been in conversation with Girls Fast Pitch, and they will be recommending somebody to serve as a director.
Okay, and we do need that and that's a separate item. We do need to have representation for each of the groups that are doing business with the Woodland Rec Foundation, because I haven't seen that, and that conversation happened prior to 2019. Finally, we talk a lot about, underutilized fields. And in the future, we haven't been able to ensure that our fields are used to the full extent, or we see, the politics that come into play with whether it's associations or teams that don't want to share. I want to know how it is we're going to streamline that a little better in the future, because, now with COVID as a threat, I don't know what it's going to look like, and I don't know much longer. I don't think any of us know how much longer this COVID pandemic is going to be a larger threat to any outdoor activities. But I want to know what's the plan to guarantee that our fields, don't go underutilized, or that some folks out there don't feel like they're not, able to use our fields, because, this being a public park, I see it kind of like any of our parks out there that are open. We have our play structures that are open. Those are all liabilities to us.
Yeah, I would just say that Girls Fast Pitch, the fields are different than the fields that are used for Little League or for Cal Ripken, so that it wouldn't be possible to share fields on a regular basis for games and things, because the bases there's a different distances between the bases, and the outfield distance is different, as well as there's a distance difference between the pitching rubber and then also the plate. So we can't flip flop real quickly between fields. We do have a great working relationship with Woodland Joint Unified School District and their operations staff so that we do share fields when needed because seasons are changing right now because of COVID. The high school football team, if it moves forward, depending on where we are now with COVID, but they'll be utilizing fields at the sports park. So we really are sharing resources and helping each other out and making sure that everybody does have fields that they need for their youth recreation.
Okay, finally, I do know the staff report notes that we didn't allocate any seed funding for the girls softball. And I mentioned this to the city manager because, I feel this kind of goes against, our intent to do good. It invalidates our intent to demonstrate that we are supportive of the girls fast pitch. So I wasn't happy about that because I know in the past we requested money to be set aside. At the end of the day, we have put money into the concept and what phase 2 will be. And with that funding each and every youth group out there, regardless of the seed funding. So my main take here, folks, I would like to bring this back under the new leadership. If my colleagues want to go ahead and pursue this, I don't feel like I'm in a position to adequately represent the Spring Lake community and i.e. my district in this item. And back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Rodriguez. Your thoughts are very deep, and I respect your thoughts. There's no question about that. This project is, as you know, 3 years in the making, and I believe it can only be so much consideration of every fact and detail with these specific use fields. Like Ms. Engel indicated, you really can't play Little League in a softball field and vice versa. You can't put 8-year-olds at the Babe Ruth Park. It doesn't work. Some of these parks are very specific to their use. Just like you don't play basketball in a tennis court. It doesn't work. I do understand the concerns about exclusivity. I think I mispronounced that. But I believe that in looking at the use agreements, there was language in the use agreements that there is availability for these facilities to others. I know that one of the concerns that you had was, somebody locks the key and then nobody can use it. I think that we need to prevent that from happening. I hope that City Manager and Ms. Engel are listening to that. There must be a method for others, I don't care where you live in the city, that you have access to these facilities if it's available. Certainly the season for those sports takes priority. That's what they're being built for. They're raising private money to do this. The ability to raise funds for these projects from a local government perspective has diminished. And in some cases, in some cities, is zero. Many cities in our state, I've looked at this across the state, must rely on this cooperation with private groups such as Sports Foundation, Recreation Foundation, such as the soccer club, to get these things off the ground and get them moving. The goal here, I think, is to get these projects off the ground and moving. Talking about them endlessly for the last 3 years has not accomplished a darn thing. It is time to move these projects along. Certainly, there's not going to be a perfect use agreement for everybody's concern. But I hear the concerns that you've made, Councilman Rodriguez, and I share them with you. But I think it's time that these programs get moving. A lot of people have put a lot of energy and they're doing their best to raise funds. I wish we had the $2.5 million to give to the girls softball. We don't have it. We simply don't have it. Although the new council, as it comes in, we need to look at other avenues and other streams of revenue to support these organizations and support these programs. These youth programs are critical to our future. There's no question about it. We need to do what we can to help these kids advance to become productive adults. And providing facilities and services to them is the way to do it. I think we have to, whether we like it or not, we do have to rely on some private industry and some private groups and some foundations to move these projects along. As painful as that is, city control of these items I don't think are no longer feasible. I remember the days when cities did control everything when it came to sports and recreation in a city. Those days are behind us, I think. Ms. Engel, I think that you're probably the leader in our community who knows this more. I wonder if you could chime in on just that topic, which is the cooperation between private enterprise, private foundations, and cities to move these programs along.
Absolutely. I think with the current financial condition of California, many cities are working with organizations that then manage the facility. So that's nothing new. I do want to point out that while we do have a lot of fields that are available for recreation use, the ones that are maintained specifically for Little League or Cal Ripken or, that are true ball fields, the gates are not just open every day for people to use those facilities because we do have vandalism. That's why we do have baseball fields at parks that are available for use all the time for the public. But it's not unusual also to close off some fields. Because we can't have people out there if the grass is wet and whatnot.
All right. Any other member of the council wish to make a comment on this topic, item 11?
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Stallard.
I'm really awfully sad to hear that there's any kind of feeling that this isn't the right thing to do. It's gone on for a long time. I care a lot about my colleagues and their feelings, so I don't say that lightly. But, I recall meeting 2 to 3 years ago when we decided this was the whole new approach. We had so many people that wanted facilities and we didn't have the resources to do it. So we gave small amounts of money to each of them. We did that for the skateboard park, which is not yet realized. We did that for the tennis complex, which is not yet realized. And we had, I think, 50,000 in for the fast pitch program, some of which has already been spent, as we just heard. But I've heard no opposition to this at all. And all I've heard is support for it, and including the Woodland Girls Fast Pitch Association. I would also like to say that I have some concern about the suggestion that somehow the Spring Lake community has any kind of special role here. They have none of their landscape and lighting money is going to go to restore, to maintain this field. And I can just bet you that a lot of those girls in this program are from the Spring Lake area, just as they are from all the rest of the community. But some of the nice things we want for our community, we can't have anymore unless we have substantial citizen participation. Mr. Dowling came forward with a gift of $200,000. That's a pretty major private sector gift to help this happen. And former Mayor Skip Davies has worked like a dog to line up volunteers. They're coming from the fast pitch community as well as volunteers outside the fast pitch community. So I just see this as really what we want to encourage for our future. I don't see any downside to it. It would be nice to have those restrooms right away. It'd be nice to have their snack bar right away. But they have the most important thing if we let this go forward, and that is we're going to get their fields built, and that they can start from there and they can work to get the rest of the things as they go forward. And I believe they will. I also think it's healthy for a community to feel personal responsibility as citizens to make things happen, not just rely on our city government to do it, which we would if we could, but we again don't have the funding. So I feel this is a great opportunity for our city, and I really, really feel we need to go forward now. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other member of the council?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Fernandez here.
Councilmember Fernandez, welcome.
Yeah, I want to relay that I'm in support of this item, but I just had a question for the city attorney. I mean, looking at the long term of the lease, in addition to the right to extend, I know that municipalities have certain immunity from taxes, state taxes, but I know that at least in the private sector, when there's a property interests of greater than 35 years being transferred, that it can trigger a change in ownership for tax purposes. I don't know if that affects this type of transaction, but it's something that came to mind right now. And I don't know if that's something that needs to be looked into, because I don't know if all of a sudden that property would be assessed as though it was private property upon the transfer of a leasehold interest in this property. So it might be something
Sure,
worth investigating, or maybe not. I don't know. So
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say that our viewpoint on it is that, and that's possessory interest tax is what that's called. It's essentially property tax for the interest in a property that's something less than the full fee title to the property. And given that, so what we have initially during the construction phase is we have a license agreement that essentially allows them to be on the property, and then so that they have the ability to construct the improvements on the property. And then once the construction is complete, we'll take possession and ownership of all the improvements that are located on the property. And the agreement that we have going forward from then is essentially a use agreement where they have kind of priority use over the property and responsibility for maintaining the improvements and the like. But I don't believe that would be a significant enough interest for them to trigger property tax. But you do raise a good point, and it's probably worthwhile to put a notice in the use agreement just to make them aware of that risk. I highly doubt that would trigger the need for them to pay property tax. And in addition to that, I believe they're being structured as a tax exempt nonprofit, and so they likely wouldn't have responsibility as a charitable foundation anyways. But it's worth us looking into. So if someone makes the motion, they may direct us to just be certain on that issue. So thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you, Councilman Fernandez. Anybody else?
Yeah, me, Mayor Landsberg, Angel Barajas.
Councilman Barajas.
Yeah, so it's my understanding that the city has not committed and will not commit to future funding for build-out and other amenities if we move forward on this project. So the question becomes, if there's no public funding, city funding towards the build-out, then why not work with the community to build this girls' fast pitch softball field and amenities for services for our community? And it's correct. The girls have been stuck in the middle, and it's unfair, and it's been going on for 3 years. And so I think we need to do is look at our options at the table that are in front of us and proceed to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anything else on this item 11?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Rodriguez. So I do want to clarify that, I wholeheartedly support the girls' fast pitch. I believe that we failed in being transparent here, and I believe that we should have had a Spring Lake Forum. And so no excuse at this point to me after 3 years is a valid excuse. And I appreciate, the folks that Darling for donating the money and for folks that want to get this done, because it's, like we said, it's a project that we're looking forward to. On my end, I have seen public money spent on this. So let's make that very clear. To me, this decision would be a lot much easier if we had held this forum. I will not get in the way of advancing this project, but unfortunately I can't. I'm gonna have to abstain if we take this up today. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Rodriguez. Any more on item 11? Thank you. Is there another item on the consent calendar that a member wishes to bring up? Doesn't sound like it. Hearing no other requests, is there a motion regarding the consent calendar?
Stallard moves the consent calendar.
Stallard moves the consent calendar. Can I have a second, please?
Hernandez.
Hernandez makes the second. Madam Clerk, can we have a voice vote, please?
Thank you. Councilmember Barajas,
Aye.
Councilmember Fernandez,
Aye.
Mayor Landsberg,
Aye.
Councilmember Rodriguez.
I am abstaining from item 11, otherwise I on 1 through, on 2 through 10.
Thank you. And Mayor Pro Tem Stallard.
Aye.
Thank you. The consent calendar items 2 through 11 carry on a 5-0 roll call vote, indicating abstention for Councilmember Rodriguez on item number 11.
I don't think that was quite what she said. I think it's 5-0 on 1 through 10.
2 through 10, yes. Thank
right.
you.
Thank
And
you.
abstain item number 11, yes, thank you.
Great. Thank you. That takes us to item, and thank you, council members, for that robust discussion. That's what we should be doing as council, is having these robust discussions, because we serve the community and not ourselves. So thank you for bringing it up, Councilmember Rodriguez. That takes us to item G, City Manager Report. We're going to start with item G12, the CARES Act Small Business Support, which could not come at a better time. Mr. Hyatt.
Yes, good evening, Mayor, members of the council. It's my pleasure to introduce to you an opportunity to both partner with the county and also provide some relief to our business community. Yolo County, much like I think just about every county throughout California, made a conscious choice to take some of their federally allocated CARES Act funding and dedicate it to supporting small businesses throughout the county in our local communities. In this case, Yolo County allocated funding and proceeded to deliver a grant program earlier this fall, countywide. So all the cities and businesses in the unincorporated area, their businesses that qualified under the program were allowed to apply. Ultimately, under the county's program, they were successful in distributing roughly $17,000 to local small businesses countywide, of which just over $100,000 went to some of our Woodland businesses. The county program actually ended up being undersubscribed. So as a result, the county turned to the cities and asked if we would be willing to help them distribute the balance of the funds in our individual communities through our own programs. So before you this evening is consideration for what's referred to as a subrecipient agreement to receive $235,000 approximately from the county of their CARES Act funds, and then use those to manage our own support small business program, as we've preliminarily titled it. One of the restrictions, though, is that two things. One, the funds need to be distributed before the end of the calendar year per federal requirements. So we have a very short time frame to not only develop the program, administer it, and get the funds distributed to the businesses, which also would be important given the recent restrictions. So what we have done is outline preliminarily in the staff report that was attached subsequent to a hearing late last week that the county was going to be agreeing to providing these funds to us. We outlined an assistance program that would meet the county's criteria and would be targeted primarily to small businesses that meet certain criteria. The criteria that we've outlined is very similar to what the county provided, which does target the funds to smaller businesses, meaning businesses with 20 full-time employees or fewer, annual revenue receipts in 2019 of $2 million or less, and were impacted as a result of COVID-19 and could demonstrate that through their loss in revenue and receipts. The grant funding would be proportionate to the number of employees that businesses have. So your eligibility would be tied to employee count, and $500 per full-time equivalent would be eligible up to a maximum of $10,000 in grant assistance. And that would need to be provided in the form of demonstrating that you've been impacted and have costs associated with responding to the COVID-19 pandemic. In addition, the county, knowing that not only were businesses, particularly in the service sector, particularly impacted with the guidance provided by the state and the county, particularly restaurants that needed to transition to more outside dining to support their operations, but also gyms and even hair salons and independent contractors. So in the county's subrecipient agreement, they have asked the cities to target some of the funds towards assisting businesses that have costs associated with winterizing or weatherizing outdoor operations as we're heading into the colder months. And so again, the program that we've outlined does provide, in addition to businesses that may qualify for the impact money, also up to $10,000 towards costs associated with improvements that qualify for weatherizing outdoor operations. So I will conclude there and give the council a chance to provide some feedback and input on this program. But in talking with city managers in West Sacramento as well as Davis, I think they're taking a very similar approach to how they're going to be using the funds. And we've begun to develop promotional and marketing information to let businesses know that these funds will be available to be applied for. If approved this evening, we hope to launch the program by Thursday morning of this week, close the application period by November 30th, which is a Monday, and then turn around the review and distribution of the funds before mid-December. The County Board of Supervisors took the matter up this morning and formally approved the subrecipient agreements and the allocation of the funds. So with that, staff's recommendation is that the council approve that subrecipient agreement with the county and authorize the city manager to implement a small business support program using those funds.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Ballard.
I apologize for interrupting. I'm going to recuse myself from this item. I've listened to the report, but I'm just going to excuse myself from this item. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stallard. Thank you, Mr. Hyatt, for your presentation. And I wonder if there's any council member who has a question or comment from the city manager regarding this particular item, the funds for small businesses.
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Rodriguez, just a note to our businesses to take advantage of this benefit if they qualify. I want to, at this moment also thank our businesses who are working so hard to stay afloat, and our businesses on Main Street who are doing a lot to support each other, and those businesses outside of Main Street as well. And not related, but I should throw out a shout out to Christy Hayes, owner of Mojo's, and the American Legion out there, because I know they're doing great work.
Thank you, Councilmember Rodriguez. Any other member?
Yeah, Mayor Landsberg.
Councilmember Rajas.
Yeah, I see that the qualification to receive a possible grant is with a small business that has 20 employees max. Was that number picked out of the air, or is that something that the federal government defines a small business as up to 20 employees?
You know, that number actually was taken based on looking at the county's program as well as other programs that have been administered throughout California. And it's been pretty common that somewhere between 20, 25 full-time equivalent employees, folks were classifying as small businesses. So there's no federal or state definition tied to that that I'm aware of. It's really modeled after how other programs have been developed.
Okay, and each application is going to be looked at first come, first serve. So for example, opens up Thursday, and then somebody fills it out Thursday, their application is going to be viewed first and possibly qualified first, or how does that work?
Yeah, good question. So what we intend to do is review the applications, but not make any determinations until after the close of the application period to give everybody equal opportunity to pull together the necessary background documentation. Similar to how the county structured it, they reviewed those applications, ruled out those that didn't qualify, and then evaluated the remaining qualifying applications. If in the scenario that we're actually oversubscribed here with our program, what we've identified is a prioritization of businesses, and it's shown under the selection process category. So we are suggesting that prioritization be weighed at that point based on three factors. One, if you have not received PPP loans. So there are still a lot of businesses that weren't successful in getting access to those PPP loans. So we would prioritize those businesses as well as businesses within our two qualified census tracts as disadvantaged communities. And then thirdly, businesses that were not awarded grants under the county's program. Certainly we don't want to duplicate and provide funds to businesses that were already able to access grant funds either through the county or other state programs. So I think once we evaluate the applications, rule out the qualifying applications, and then use this prioritization, we'll end up with sufficient funding to cover all of them. We're still at a point where we can't fund everybody at the full amount requested. I think we would adjust and make sure that everybody that did qualify ended up receiving some level of funding.
Okay, my last question is, how is the CARES Act grant going to be promoted to small businesses that typically are not well connected to City Hall?
Yeah, another good question. And I think part of the reason why the county's program, both in Woodland and West Sacramento, might not have been as well subscribed to was, the limited time and ability to reach out to some of those disconnected business communities. So our plan is to promote and outreach to these businesses, both in English and Spanish, provide direct contact to individual businesses that we think are particularly impacted as a result of COVID that may not be in your normal locations here in town. We will also be conducting a Zoom webinar for businesses to ask questions to see if they actually qualify under the program. So we will do everything in our power to make sure every business here in this community that is in need and is interested is aware of the program and knows how to apply.
Great, thank you, appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Councilman Barajas. Anybody else? Doesn't sound like it. I have one quick question for Mr. Hyatt, and it's this. Did I hear that these funds need to be spent by us by the end of the year?
That is correct. Under the federal guidelines for the CARES Act funds, all funds must be expended before December 30th of this year, and any funds that are not expended under our agreement with the county would simply have to be given back to the county, who will then in turn need to return it to the federal government.
Great, thank you. Good. Any other questions? Madam Clerk, are there any hands raised on this topic?
No.
Any public comments received on this particular item?
No.
Thank you. Can I get a motion from someone?
Move to approve.
Motion by Barajas. Is there a second?
I'll second, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember Rodriguez.
Rodriguez seconds. Madam Clerk?
Thank you. Councilmember Barajas?
Aye.
Councilmember Fernandez?
Aye.
Mayor Landsberg?
Aye.
Councilmember Rodriguez?
Aye.
And Mayor Pro Tem Stallard is recusing himself. This item carries on a 4-0 roll call vote.
Thank you. Before I go to item G13, we missed a public comment on the consent calendar. I think it's important that it be read into the record. And I believe it's on consent calendar item number 9. Is that correct, Madam Clerk?
Yes, that's correct.
Do you have it to read into the record?
Yes. Thank you. Woodland City Council. My name is Tom Pritchard, and I am the superintendent of the Woodland Joint Unified School District. I would like to thank Ken Hyatt and Christine Engel for the hard work they have done and the collaborative manner in which they have helped reach this agreement. Approval of this MOU will continue the strong, cooperative, and positive relationship between the city and Woodland Joint Unified School District and will benefit the youth of Woodland for years to come. Thank you, Tom Pritchard. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Forgot to do that earlier. That takes us to item G13, the Woodland Research and Technology Park. I believe there's a presentation from Mr. Hyatt. Is that correct?
That is correct. I will provide some introductory remarks, and then Erica Bumgarner will, she's getting her PowerPoint set up here, walk you through some details about the proposed specific plan that has now been released for public review. So as the council has been eyeing on the long-range calendar for quite some time now, we are pleased to formally release to the public via this council meeting the public review draft of the specific plan for the Woodland Research and Technology Park project. The council, I'm sure, recalls that this project was born out of the general plan process that we started over 6-7 years ago and was adopted in 2017, which that plan, under the direction of the council at the time, was heavily focused on economic development. We were just coming out of the last Great Recession, and the community had been impacted pretty significantly by loss of businesses and therefore jobs throughout the city. We had a significant vacancy rate in our industrial area. Downtown was struggling more than it really had in recent past, and so the general plan took a pretty strong focus on how to use that document, which is a 25-year sort of visionary document for the community, and use it as a tool to promote economic development. And one of the tenets and key principles, visions in that plan were centered around diversifying the job base here in this community. Woodland has had a very strong, service sector and ag-based economy over for 150 years now, right? And then not fully leveraging and taking advantage of the university's presence just to the south. And we don't need to remind ourselves that the University of California, Davis is world-renowned for its research and applied research as well in agriculture, but also animal science. And Woodland, being 7 miles to the north, is uniquely and well positioned to help that university transform the way that we produce food and feed the planet and keep the plants and animals healthy in the process. And so through the general plan process, we identified the need to create opportunities for knowledge-based and science-based industries that are directly aligned with the university's strengths in those research areas. And the south area of the community had been planned for a future build out as part of the Spring Lake planning effort in the early 2000s, and had anticipated the next phase of Spring Lake to include some level of a business park. And so the general plan kind of reaffirmed that intention and that desire and prioritized it as an opportunity to make an impact and diversify the job base in this community and create not just jobs for the residents and the youth in this community to aspire to, but ultimately focusing on careers that folks could pursue even after going off to university and having an opportunity to come back to their community of origin and have a career here. And so the Research and Technology Park sort of took that vision out of the general plan and has now begun to provide some clarity around what that might look like on the 350 acres within the plan. And the specific plan document has been developed largely in consultation with the applicant team, which consists of 5 individual landowners. There's no specific developer behind the project at this time. It's really been the intention of the landowners to be actively involved in the development of the plan and envision the plan being something that is impactful to this community. And we have held multiple public meetings over the course of the 3 years that the council has, since the council has initiated this process, including meeting fairly regularly with Spring Lake Working Group to help us identify questions and issues that they hope to have addressed in the plan. The information that's in the plan, we are seeking tonight, not for sort of validation and approval from the council, but simply to provide the council and the public information about what the vision is for the document, and then outline for the community what the input process will look like over the next 6 months. So attached to the staff report and also before the council this evening is an opportunity for input on what the public outreach will look like over the course of the next 6 to 7 months. That plan and that schedule that you see in the attachments is not a prescriptive timeline. It's rather a guide for us to work towards, and we recognize the need to ensure that there's adequate public engagement throughout the process, and so likely that schedule will be adjusted as we move forward to ensure that we are adequately engaging with the community, and particularly the Spring Lake residents, and make sure that they have equal and full opportunity to provide comment. In addition to the specific plan document, Erica will identify the other documents that will be forthcoming that will ultimately be part of the package that the council will be asked to consider at the end of the process. So with that, I will now turn it over to Erica and have her walk you through the details of the specific plan and the public outreach process, and look forward to the council's input on both of those.
All right, great. Thank you. And thank you and good evening, Mayor Landsberg, members of council. Can everyone hear me okay? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Great, thank you. So as Ken mentioned, come on, let me see if there we go. Okay, so as Ken mentioned, we are very excited to be able to share with you the public review draft of the Research and Technology Park specific plan this evening. I'll take you through a high-level overview of the draft document. I want to share with you some key elements of the plan. And then, as Ken mentioned, I'll conclude with next steps and community and stakeholder outreach approach over the coming months. Just as a real brief reminder, a specific plan is essentially a tool for carrying out the goals and policies identified in the city's general plan, and in many ways is very similar to a general plan, providing a vision and regulatory framework that will guide the build out of the tech park specific plan over the 10, 15, 20-year life of the plan. As you will recall, the plan area is comprised of 6 individual parcels of land encompassing the full 350 acres immediately adjacent to just west of Spring Lake, bound by Harry Lorenzo Avenue and Highway 113 on the east and west, and Farmers Central Road on the north, and then down just past County Road 25A to the city's urban limit line on the south. So that the technology park will implement the goals and policies of the city's 2035 general plan, as you will recall, recently adopted in 2017. And this will be for the new growth area SP1A, which is defined in the general plan as a mixed residential district anchored by a research and technology business park, providing a prime opportunity for job creation and diversification in Woodland. So to that end, you will find in the early chapters of the draft specific plan the project's guiding principles and policies that are derived directly from the general plan and that shape the overall development framework for the project. I'm not going to walk through every one of these policies this evening, but I do want to highlight a few key objectives. And while I'm doing so, I'll walk you through the land use plan itself so you can see how those guiding policies tangibly come into play. So to start, obviously a key element of the project includes the development of a state-of-the-art innovation center that will accommodate manufacturing, research and development, and office uses. The project development standards allow for flexible building formats that allow companies to respond to changing market demands and allows for phased development and growth over time. This flexibility, as well as a streamlined, efficient review process, is key for attracting new companies, especially those looking to build from the ground up. Additionally, the plan supports complementary uses, including employee serving retail and recreational opportunities, with an emphasis on ensuring a thoughtful transition between the plan area and the adjacent Spring Lake neighborhood. So in this specific plan, the 350-acre area is described as being comprised of 3 core planning districts. The first district is shown here is the Technology Park District, which is approximately 120 acres and located along the western or Highway 113 boundary of the plan area, and will accommodate 2.2 million square feet of business park and commercial uses through an integrated and well-connected campus environment. The second district is the Residential Villages District, which is approximately 135 acres and is located along the eastern boundary immediately adjacent to Spring Lake. The Village District will accommodate 1,600 residential uses, a variety of types and densities, but with a transition to lower densities as you approach the eastern boundary of the plan to allow, again, for that seamless transition and connection to Spring Lake. Through higher density development in certain locations and flexibility for small lot subdivisions, the plan will realize housing affordability by design by those smaller lots. And it will also be consistent and comply with the city's adopted affordable housing, inclusionary housing policy and ordinance. And then the last district is the Village Center, which is approximately 45 acres and is really the heart of the plan area. It's centrally located between the Technology Park and the villages and includes a mixed-use town center, a mobility hub, which I'll touch on in just a moment, an 11-acre linear park, and captures some residential uses envisioned as being a little more compact, a little more urban in nature, as reflected in the guidelines and standards for that particular area. One of the guiding principles describes the Village Center as providing that central gathering place for employees, visitors, and residents to relax, to connect, and importantly, for the innovation component, we'll provide an opportunity for informal networking opportunities that foster greater collaboration and innovation. So the district concept allows us to really highlight and guide the development objectives within each individual district, including the unique aspects of like the tech park campus versus the village center and the residential areas. Sub-districts within those 3 core areas and the zoning within those core areas allows for finer grained discussion and guidance of important transition zones and relationships between each of the districts. And then collectively, all 3 districts work together to create a unique community that will attract high quality companies drawn by the location, by the development flexibility, and will attract and retain a high quality workforce, including Woodland residents and its young adult community looking to work, live, and play in a cohesive and well-connected neighborhood. So to that end, the plan area is built on the concept of a prioritized pedestrian connectivity rather than on auto dominance and the facilitation of an active and healthy community. So the map on your screen shows the active transportation network consisting of multi-use trails and paths, dedicated on-street bike lanes, and shared lane markings on lower volume local roads. I know it's probably a little hard to read this map on the screen given the size. I hope people will take a look at the document either online or in person and can see this a little bit better there. But as described in Chapter 4 of the plan, which is the circulation mobility chapter, the project area at build out will incorporate nearly 5 miles of Class 1, meaning 10-foot wide, off-street green belts and multi-use trails, and an additional 3.5 miles of Class 2 on-street bike lanes, encouraging active transportation such as walking and biking rather, again, than on dependence on auto trips. So That mileage of bike lanes and paths substantially increases when you take into consideration connectivity to the existing greenbelt trails and paths within the adjacent Spring Lake community. So as I noted earlier, a unique feature of the plan is the plan's mobility hub or transit hub, which is centrally located and planned for in the village center. The mobility hub will, at project build out, serve as the core of the alternative transportation system, providing integrated transit service, as well as last mile connectivity choices from scooter share to ride share, your Uber Lyft drop off and pickup turnouts. The location of the mobility hub within the village center was intentional, with the idea that amenities at the village center, such as cafes, co-working spaces, will enhance the hub as a place of connection and encourage that alternative transit use. So lastly, before I move off of the broader objective of healthy communities, I want to mention the Village Center, and in particular, the 11-acre linear park, which many of these trails and paths connect into and flow throughout. The park itself will include an array of passive and active recreational activities, so natural areas where you can just sit down and enjoy your lunch under a shaded tree canopy, or where you can meet with your office mates for a pickup soccer game after work. A key feature of the park will be a cool open-air pavilion for a farmer's market, and where local residents, neighbors can gather, in a post-COVID era, knock on wood, that gathering can take place. The park really is a key amenity in the plan area and a social gathering place that will serve not only the Tech Park area, but also the broader Southeast area, including Spring Lake. And a follow-on document to this specific plan, once adopted, is a master park plan to design the park as well as the farmers market pavilion and consider phasing through plan development. So the last key component of the plan I wanted to highlight before moving on to next steps in community outreach is the objective of a sustainable project design. So certainly the foundational elements of the plan, project design, including the live, work nature of the plan area, the bike ped trail systems, alternative transportation options, certainly get us headed in the right direction towards a sustainable plan area and community. However, there are additional measures and standards incorporated into the plan to ensure individual development projects incorporate, to the extent feasible, sustainable design practices. So those requirements are outlined in Chapter 3 of the plan and include project consistency with the city's climate action plan, incorporation of conservation measures above Building Code Title 24 standards, and demonstrated consistency with CalGreen Tier 1 standards, which are generally considered to be about 15% more efficient than Title 24 green building standards. And lastly, the plan will develop a transportation demand management program that will help achieve a minimum 10% reduction in vehicle miles traveled, which is consistent with the general plan VMT policy. So combined, these measures will keep the project and city on track to realize its greenhouse gas reduction targets. So at a high level, I've covered many of the key elements you'll find in the first 4 chapters of the plan. Chapters 5, 6, and 7 describe the infrastructure, the implementation and financing strategies, and technical administration of the plan. Just given time consideration tonight and kind of the higher level focus of tonight's presentation, I won't do a deep dive into those chapters as they are more technical in nature, but certainly if you have questions, we can address those. And so I'll wrap up with next steps in outreach. As noted in your report, following the release of the draft specific plan, we will see a few additional supporting documents to follow, the first of which being the draft environmental impact report, which we anticipate releasing in December, which will kick off the 45-day CEQA public review process. That 45 days is specific to the CEQA process, not to the full community engagement process, and in its entirety, that will be longer. A fiscal impact analysis that will describe the estimated public costs and revenues that will result from plan implementation. and the project financing plan. And we expect to bring those both to council in late winter, early spring, along with documents shortly thereafter will be the project development agreement, either concurrent with or shortly thereafter. So over the coming months, the project applicant team and city staff will meet with the community and local stakeholder groups to reintroduce the project and review, content makeup of the specific plan, in-depth, chapter by chapter. And like Ken mentioned, an abbreviated version on the screen, a detailed outline of that review process is included in your report packet. As Ken mentioned, this schedule is by no means set in stone. If any, issues arise, or if we need more time to meet with the community, the schedule, could bump out a little bit. So lastly, per COVID, it's anticipated that a majority of these meetings will be held online via Zoom or similar platforms. The draft specific plan is now available online on the city's project webpage. Hard copies are available at City Hall, at the library, and at the community center for people who want to look at it in person. I would call the library ahead of time to make sure you don't need an appointment first. And then additional supporting documents as they are completed will also be posted online. So information regarding the availability of the specific plan and related documents, as well as upcoming public meetings, governing board hearings, will be provided via email listserv, social media posts, when appropriate, public notification in the Daily Democrat, and mailers to the community. And we are collecting taking comments, questions at any time throughout the public review process by way of email at researchpark@cityofwoodland.org, or people can contact me directly at any time. So this wraps up my presentation. I would like to introduce John Hodgson and Melanie Matthews, both part of the project applicant team. I believe Mr. Hodgson would like to provide some comments on behalf of the team and the project whenever the council is ready to take the applicant comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica. Before we do that, I do want to open it up to council members to ask you specific questions or have comments to you on your presentation, and then we'll go back to Mr. Hodgson, if that works for you. All right, so any member of the council have a question or comment for either Erica or Mr. Hyatt up to this point?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, this is Councilmember Rodriguez. First, Erica, thank you for this presentation. I've been very grateful to you and enjoy watching you present, whether virtually or in person, especially during our last prior to COVID community forum. So I appreciate your passion on this subject. Spring Lake is very, and I'll say the community and beyond is very excited about this tech park, and you're just excited to get the full layout of this going. And I know that there is a working group in the Spring Lake community also assisting with providing their input. Most recently, we are currently waiting on the final results of what would be a Davis Innovation and Sustainability Campus. And, at this time, one of the questions that I've gotten pertaining to our project and this potential Davis project, if it were to be approved, right now it is not in the lead, but what can we say to residents who may have a concern over the Davis campus competing with our business tech park? Or potentially competing, I should say.
You want to take that?
It could be Erica or Ken.
Sorry. Yeah.
Thank you.
Erica, take a stab. I'll start, and then she can provide better detail. But I think as the region has matured and identified a pretty deep, profound potential for this region to play an important role, particularly around food and ag innovation. Every report, every study for the region has identified the under maturity of our region in terms of assets and resources to advance research and technology industries. And so I don't view, and nor do I think most economic developers in the region view a Davis project versus a Woodland project versus a Sacramento and West Sacramento project as competing. I really see them as complementary and almost necessary for all of them to occur in order for this region to fully leverage the assets that we have, particularly through the University of California at Davis, and almost incumbent upon us as communities to not throttle the potential for private industry to collaborate with the university research potential. And so, each community will have a different role in providing business opportunities. Businesses that want to locate in Davis are going to locate there for specific and unique reasons. And businesses that maybe don't want to be in Davis are going to look to a Woodland opportunity as a great opportunity, given our proximity and access to a growing science-based industry, particularly around in the food. So I don't see these projects in any way competing with each other. And ultimately, again, I think they will complement and build up the region.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager.
Mm-hmm. Erica, anything to add?
Not specifically on that. I would say very related, I think, has been a question about, is there still demand in, the new age of COVID? And so I would say that, we've seen a drop in office demand since COVID, and realization that, office jobs don't necessarily, need to be housed within an office building. But again, as Ken mentioned, certainly as, research and lab-based companies and jobs are, harder to accommodate at home. So I think there's still demand for that, and kind of the pent-up demand that Ken talked about in the region for a business park like this focused around, food, ag, and health in particular, within close proximity to UC Davis. I think when the project applicant speaks, he can talk about the continued interest that we receive for location in the plan area as well.
Thank you, Erica.
Thank you, Councilman Rodriguez. Any other member have a question or comment for either Erica or Mr. Hyatt? Doesn't sound like it. So Erica, proceed with your next phase, please.
So at this point, if the council would like, I can introduce again John Hodgson, who will be speaking on the behalf of the applicant team.
Let's do that.
Can you hear me?
Mr. Hodgson, we can hear you.
Can you see me? If not,
We see a very good shot of you, Mr. Hobson.
We lost Mr. Hodgson.
something happened there. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. As I think most of you know, my name is John Hodgson, and I am president of the Hodgson Company. We're based in Sacramento, but have done projects all throughout the greater Sacramento area over the last 20, 25 years. And I'm here today representing the Woodland Research and Technology Park. It's a project that started nearly 5 years ago. First of all, I wanted to thank the city staff, particularly Erica and Ken and probably Brent, for all the work they and supporting staff and consultants have done. This is a very, very large project, very expensive from our point of view. And I think what we've come up with is a really well-planned, mixed-use master plan community. And when I say mixed use, I mean, this is about as mixed use a project as I've ever dealt with. This is not only residential, which is often the basis of a project, but it also includes, most importantly in features, the office, commercial, research, and tech park portion of it. And I won't get into too much of that right now because Erica, I think, did a nice job. What I wanted to point out and just reiterate what Ken had said This plan is exactly, in my humble opinion, what you folks asked for in your general plan. This is the plan in greater detail with almost the identical numbers that are in the general plan. So this specific plan is really just an implementation. We think a very careful and thoughtful implementation of the city's general plan, which, as you all know, you spent quite a bit of time updating a few years ago. This plan also, I think, addresses the needs of many potential users. It addresses the needs for people who want to be close to UC Davis, or people that are in and around the UC Davis area, as well as the Woodland area. As you folks know better than me, you've got, if you will, have a very significant ag tech research component in and around the city. Thought I'd talk for just a minute because everybody asks me, you know, what's going on with interested people? Who are the potential users? What I say to anybody who asks me when my project is not done, we need a there before the users are going to really get serious. You know, there's plans, and unfortunately, I think the Davis project that looks like it's going down, you know, they don't have a project. They don't have a there. It doesn't look like they'll have a there. We will have a there. We will have an entitled project, we hope, in the next 6 months. But even without us marketing this project at all, other than just some, you know, more or less regular press coverage, whether it's local or in a couple cases, national or regional real estate newsletters, news articles, we're seeing considerable interest. And this is not necessarily us going out and talking to people, although we certainly do that. It's people that are expressing their interest in coming coming to Woodland, looking at this research park. They don't see just a research park, they see a mixed-use community that has not only the different kinds of opportunities for different types of users, but also really nice residential, both higher density and more traditional lower density. A beautiful, I call it Central Park, and I have to get used to calling it the Yard because that's what Erica named it. But you know, a really nice park in the middle that's really well planned, that kind of ties the, if you look at the plan there in front of you, it ties the residential on the right side, the east side, with the office on the west side. And as importantly, you have a critical part of retail, commercial, along with some highway commercial, you know, next to the freeway. We are very optimistic about our chances of getting users. And I can tell you personally, in the last 8 to 9 months, I'll list some, not all, but some of the people that we've talked to. First of all, we've talked with a very large public institution, an educational group that's focused on agricultural research. This organization, if we could get them there, would be a superb anchor tenant. We have talked with a major state agency who is interested in the high tech and sustainability features of this project. They're interested in potentially doing some kind of model for the latest in energy technologies and net zero energy. We are featuring that. Erica talked about it briefly. We are featuring or focused on making this as sustainable and as environmentally sensitive as possible. We have a number of ag related and ag tech related companies interested, not only those that are in the area who are planning to grow or possibly move, but certainly planning to expand their operations, as well as other companies, not only in the region, but other places. Again, ag tech is not exclusive. The only thing we're doing, but that's certainly because of Woodland, because of UC Davis, is a focus. We've had, kind of to our surprise, we've had some, what I would call just professional offices. And, you know, I'll leave it at that. Different kinds of professional offices who like the idea of something new. You know, they like the idea of the mixed use. They like the idea of the park across the street. Hopefully when we get the town center going, just the attraction of a well-planned community. I thought was most interesting in each one of these companies I'm going to list in a second here, all from overseas, all just kind of showed up. They heard about it. You know, we've talked to some people. We certainly talked to many people at UC Davis over the years. But we have a Korean company that has a very small presence here in the region, very large presence in Korea. They have significant funding. They probably have 50, 60 employees over there, all professional, most of them researchers. Their company here, which is a relatively small group, is all PhDs, almost all from UC Davis. Their plan is to relocate their operation to somewhere in this area, and they specifically have indicated and continue to indicate an interest. They also are involved in some FDA research in which they, the Food and Drug Administration research relating to COVID-19 testing. And they will be in the paper, we hope, in the next couple of 3 weeks. We had a Swedish company, one of the largest high-tech companies in Netherlands, in Sweden, that is involved with research and tech. We had a Dutch company who is involved with some similar type large innovation parks in the Netherlands, and they want to be in this area. Agriculture, ag tech, UC Davis. And lastly, although I don't want to emphasize it too much, we've had several residential builders. And I know residential builders pretty well, and these are a couple of the best in Northern California, and for that matter, in the Western United States. They are attracted to this because it's not just a traditional subdivision, although home builders are in traditional subdivisions most of the time. They're interested in the fact that this is a mixed-use community, that it's got jobs, right across the street from where they might be building. These are companies that do, among other things, higher density, i.e. the more interesting 8, 10 units to an acre, smaller homes, slightly more affordable to families. That's exciting. We've been asked, when did we think, what would we start with? And I can tell you, my assumption has always been that we will start with a complex of 1, 2, or 3 office buildings somewhere along Road B, which is the spine, the main road that goes north-south, probably somewhere close to the town center, close to the possibly the southern end of the linear park. That's just sort of, can't go too far north because it's too expensive to bring our infrastructure out there right away. We suspect that if we can get some of the commercial going, that we might see some residential going. The residential going somewhere, I'm going to say starting to be built somewhere on the other side of the Central Park, in the village center, medium density, i.e. slightly higher density homes, as I talked about before. Don't think we'll see any retail right away, because you can't put retail in until you got some people that want to use it, but we could see that coming right away. So with respect to the future, we've got this 6 or 7 months more of what I call entitlements, get to the approvals. We've got a number of projects and things that need to be finished, financing plan, first phase, and infrastructure, figuring that out, obviously how to finance this thing, particularly first phase. I guess in conclusion, I'd like to thank the city and I'd like to thank all the community leaders for their support. I'd like also to give a particular appreciation to the Woodland Chamber of Commerce, who has been consistently supporting us and asking questions. And we're going to be back at their office or at their committee here in the next couple of weeks, as well as whatever other groups that we need to be or that Erica tells us to be at. And again, I would just tell you we're looking forward to getting the plan approved and bringing this plan to life in the very near future. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Hodgson. Great presentation. Lots of information there. Appreciate it very much for joining us tonight. Is there a member of the council that has a question or comment for Mr. Hodgson? Hearing none. The only comment I have for you, Mr. Hodgson, is this. It sounds like you want to do this and you want to do it right. You want to do it right for our community. There's a lot of interest in the community for this project. We want to make sure that all of our community is included in the planning of this project and having it go forward. So we look forward to the collaboration between your company, the companies that you've contacted, and our community to get this thing off the ground. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would also just want to acknowledge the fact that we've got some great property owners, the Beeman family in particular, who's the majority property owner, who have been very, very supportive and are in this for the long run. And one of the nice things when I sat down with this property owner group, they told me, do it right. That's nice to hear. And we're trying to.
Thank you very much. Any other member of the council have any closing comments or questions?
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Stallard.
I just want to express my appreciation again to everyone involved. This is a long time coming. I know at the beginning we hoped it would be a much faster process, but it isn't. Things do take time, and this isn't going to be an overnight project even from this point. It's going to take years to achieve build out, many, many years. But I think it's a good plan for our future. Sitting on the Greater Sacramento Economic Council, I can share with you that one of our great concerns is how we retain college graduates in this area once they leave institutions like UC Davis, Sacramento State, even Chico State. We lose our grads more so than other universities and colleges. So we want to keep them here. So this is a lure, if you will. We also want better and higher paying jobs for our own people. And as Ken said earlier, we want to give our youth a reason to stay here in the community, that there are good opportunities for them going forward. With respect to the sense of whether we compete with others, right now the only other business park in development is Metro Park, is the UC Davis Aggie Square. And it's 25 acres. This is 150 acres. Interestingly, Aggie Square, I believe, is scheduled to have about 2 million square feet, an equivalent amount of square feet, but it's going to be an urban high-rise campus with almost a totally medical focus, which is natural. It's at the UC Davis Med Center. We're focusing again on our sweet spot, which is agriculture and ag tech. Exciting things are happening in agriculture. They're coming out of UC Davis. The location couldn't be better to create a synergy with UC Davis. And the reason companies like the seed industry are here is because we have the farmland, we have the climate, and we have UC Davis. So this park is really needed. It would be complementary to have another park of similar concept in Davis, but the community there has resisted it, and it looks like that debate is going down. I do have a few little question details about the design. I think this isn't the time really to get into that. I do have a question, though, I'm just going to put on the table, and that is, how do we restrain residential development to ensure that Research Park actually gets built? In other words, will there be phases where there has to be a certain amount of Research Park built along with residential? because as we all know, the residential is the easiest part to build. Getting those industrial and research buildings is the harder nut. So I'd be interested in knowing if triggers are contemplated or a phasing plan is contemplated so that we have what I'd call a balanced development. It's just not all housing immediately while we wait a longer term for the research and tech park facilities. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Who did you want to answer that, Mr. Steller?
Pardon me?
Did you want somebody to answer that now, or?
No, I think that's a question to reserve for further study and research and response, unless somebody wants to answer that question at this time.
Doesn't sound like it.
I can wait.
Yeah, I mean, Mr. Mayor, I'll just respond quickly in that absolutely that has been a consistent sort of comment and theme from the start of this project. And we've been clear with the applicant team that is critical to the city to see the jobs materialize concurrently, if not before, the housing. And we don't want to end up with one of those projects where all the housing gets built and the jobs never materialize. And so as we go through the process, really informed by the infrastructure needs, we will develop a phasing plan that establishes a threshold at which point, further residential can develop that's tied to how successful the build out of the business park is.
Right.
Yeah, I'd like to add, if I might, Mr. Mayor, I don't have any doubt about the success of this project. I mean, when you look what's been happening in the Bay Area the last 20 years, I mean, people need places to go. And if they can't find something, they're leaving the state. So again, part of our GSAC strategy is Sacramento region is the California option where people can stay. And we want them to come here, especially those businesses that can't afford the cost structure in the highly urban center. So we're sitting on a great opportunity here, and I think it all should go right. But again, I want to make sure we've got a schedule that makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, can I just comment for a second?
Certainly.
Yeah. As I said in my brief remarks, we recognize that I said the first phase is going to be some office that might be supported by some residential. I have said consistently in the past, this is not a residential project with tech park support. This is called the Research and Tech Park. The whole point of this, and the reason candidly this attracts me is, hell, you can do residential anywhere. It's hard. First of all, don't let anybody tell you that residential is easier. It's just a little less difficult than none of this is easy. But our intent from the beginning has always been to develop the park, the office portion. What we don't want to have is some artificial number that says, you have to get the certain number before you can do some residential. And that's something we can work out. Ken and Erica and our team have talked about it. We don't have a number yet. But like I say, we're completely aware of it. And it's like, yeah, we get it. We got it 4 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, and 1 year ago. And you're saying the same thing, and we agree.
Right.
Thank you.
Mayor Landsberg?
Councilmember Rojas?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Landsberg. Thank you, John, for the presentation, and staff working with John for the last, I would say, 2 or 3 years since the general plan was adopted by the council. I just believe firmly that there's no way of stopping this project moving forward except for if there's no support by council members in the future. From what I see is the future incoming council members look like they're prepared to be in support of this project, and I can do and will do anything in my will to support the project as a future county board of supervisor and community member for the city of Woodland. I think it's something that Woodland needs it very quickly to build blue collar and white collar jobs in our community, and to also with the demand of housing that will be sprinkled into this project of low, mid, and high residential housing. units. I think that's perfect for our community. So I'm excited, and I wish everybody that's worked on this project to continue on. And before you know it, it's going to come to fruition, and it's going to be here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Fernandez.
Yeah, this will be the last time I speak on this item. So I just wanted to relay my opinion. Well, firstly, I guess I should thank staff, Ken and Erica, for working so diligently, and Mr. Hodgson. It's great to have a group that is willing to work with our community to realize what has the potential to be a beautiful development here. And if this project is built out as planned, I firmly believe that this will be the best modern day economic development project that Woodland has seen, period. So thank you for choosing Woodland. And I'm confident that staff and the future council will see this thing through.
Great. Thank you. Madam Clerk, are there any public comments on item G13?
There is a voicemail message that our IT staff will be playing back.
All right. Scott?
Or Jay?
Maybe they went home.
Member of the Community Working Group. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of council. My name is Murray Levison. I live in the southeast part of the city in Spring Lake. I'm following up on a letter I sent you about the Woodland Research and Technology Park. Over the past 3 years, I've been a member of the Community Working Group of community members who have been interested in this proposed project and how it could impact the surrounding neighborhoods and the community at large. Our community working group is comprised of volunteers from throughout the community who answered our open request for participation that was posted on social media on numerous occasions. We have worked closely with Ken Hyatt and Erica Baumgardner on the city staff and thank them for their time and assistance. As I stated in my letter, this project is large and complex and has the potential for a significant impact on the entire Woodland community. It may require many months of review and analysis by the community prior to the Planning Commission and City Council being able to make informed decisions about this project. As your guide, you can use the example of the process used to review and approve the Spring Lake specific plan. There is much to learn from that process that took place in 1999, 2000, and 2001 that you may want to duplicate, such as the desire to see and analyze alternate plans, the number of community design workshops, and the long outreach and review period that gave the entire Woodland community an opportunity to have their voices heard. But there is also much to learn from the Spring Lake process that you should strive not to duplicate, such as the reduction and elimination of community amenities in favor of building more homes that took place prior to the Spring Lake specific plan being approved, and especially the significant delay, reduction, and elimination of community amenities that prior councils approved over the past 19 years. The Woodland Research and Technology Park Community Working Group is ready and willing to partner with you and city staff to help serve as an effective conduit for information to and feedback from the community at large. But such a role requires a longer public outreach and review process, as well as building in a significant role for the community working group in that process. We look forward to working with you no matter how long this process takes, because we know that success is worth waiting for and deserves to be done correctly. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Are there other public comments you received?
No.
Mr. Mayor. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's all we have.
Councilman Rodriguez.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate you playing Mr. Murray's message, and concur with his points, especially during these times of COVID. We might have to revise our schedule and see where it is that we're giving the community ample time to make the meetings and attend the meetings virtually. And I also concur with the fact that the phasing of the project has been an ongoing topic of conversation when we touch on the subject of the business tech park. We're all very excited about this project and we want to see it through. And I think that this project will have a lot of support with the incoming council. And just based on voters, I know that this year we had double the amount of voters that I reached out to when I was back as a candidate in 2016. And so a lot of folks that have come and made Woodland their home from the Bay Area. And so we're very excited for the opportunities that brings in. At the same time, I also know that UC Davis is currently and at all times welcoming exchange students, which I know sometimes come into Spring Lake and make Spring Lake their home temporarily for a semester or a year. And so there's a lot of potential here. And we currently have, and it is important to note that we have our YOLO bus routes that go to and from Davis. And so I know that we might be looking at the revisiting of some of those routes and hopefully expand and make more use of those routes to and from UC Davis to our Research Tech Park and whatnot. So I want to thank John and Melanie and staff for all their effort and work on this project. And, I wish folks at council the very best. I know we're all very excited. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Councilor Rodriguez. All right, great discussion, great presentation, and great project. We look forward to getting this thing off the ground. And I do agree with Mr. Levinson that the entire community needs to be involved in this project. Make sure that it is done right. The main thing, I think, is let's do it right. So thank you very much for all your comments. And thank you. We can close this item out.
Thanks, John.
Thank you, Mr. Hodgson.
Thank you.
That takes us to item H, adjournment. I would like to take this opportunity to adjourn our meeting tonight in memory of Geraldine Harris. Some of you may remember Geraldine as the ice cream lady at both Thrifty's and Rite Aid. So I'm dating myself when I talk about Thrifty's, but that's how long Geraldine has been in our community. She is known as the smiling ice cream lady at that store, where I've bought a cone or two over my lifetime. Geraldine served her community in a variety of ways, including 30 years working on Mother's Board, which is an active group to helping young mothers. Also a very active member of the Second Baptist Church here in Woodland. So I'd like to adjourn this meeting for memory of Geraldine Harris. May she rest in peace. Have a good night.
Thank you, everyone.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night.